This is the Blackout Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Blackout Podcast, where I get to talk to amazing people that do amazing things. And today I have Wendy from the Biscuit General Store, right?
Yeah, I own Biscuit General Store, and I also own a shop called Independent Mercantile.
Yes, yeah. And Independent Mercantile. Thanks for coming on the podcast
Thanks
today.
for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
I guess, how are you doing with everything now? The world is a different beast entirely.
Yeah, I was just saying to Monica earlier, she was asking how things were, and I'm like, I feel like I just had to start everything over. Everything is new. Like running a business, maybe I've had one for a long time, but it's a whole new thing now. It's a whole different world, and everything's different. So I feel like I'm completely starting over. Yeah.
So, but let's go back a bit. How did which one came from Biscuit General started first?
Yeah.
What was the idea behind that business? How did it come to be?
Well, that came about. I always wanted to work in fashion, since I was a kid. And when I was coming out of high school, I got into the good fashion schools in New York, like Parsons and FIT, but I was super broke and I couldn't go because I had no way to make that happen. So I just decided I'm going to try to learn whatever I can on my own, and started taking jobs in that world. So, I worked in a store, and then I became a manager of a store, and then one of the designers who sold things to the store was like, hey, do you want to come work for me? And, I just sort of worked every job in the industry. I ended up working eventually in some production management and design. So I just sort of hopped around and did customer service, all these different jobs in the fashion industry, and ended up learning that way because I couldn't afford to go to school. And then actually I came to Halifax because I'm from the U.S., I came to Halifax to visit my dad, who had moved here, and got offered a job and ended up moving here. But then the company that I was working for, which was based in Europe, decided to close its Canadian operations, and I wanted to stay. So I started my store really as a way to stay in Halifax.
Oh.
And because I had worked all these jobs in the fashion industry, which was technically considered moving up in the fashion industry. But honestly, I really wanted to just be in a shop because I missed it. I didn't want to work in an office. I always say I don't want to work in an office where people talk about clothes. I want to actually work in a place with actual clothes and actual human beings, and helping actual human beings find clothes. Because, if you work at a certain level in the business, it's you're just in an office and the clothes are numbers on a spreadsheet. And that's not interesting to me. That doesn't do it for me. So I ended up starting Biscuit because I wanted to get back into being in a shop, but also because I wanted to stay in Halifax. And I was here on a work visa, and the company I worked for booted. So I was like, what can I do? And I started the store with no money, and everyone said it would fail, and it by all measures probably should have because the first 4 years were really, really, really hard. And I was working a ton of hours myself, and we never had enough stuff in the store because I was always trying to get money to buy more things, and it was really scraping by, and then it started to get some momentum.
So, what was your idea for the store, to get designers to bring their clothes in, or?
Well, because I had worked in the fashion business in Canada, I knew there were certain brands of clothes that I liked that weren't available at that time in Halifax. And so I reached out to those brands and said, I'm opening a shop. Would you be willing to sell to me? And sometimes I knew somebody there because I had worked in the industry. And I'd be like, look, I'm starting the store. Usually if you start a new store, you have to pay people up front.
Oh.
But I was like, would you be willing to send them to me, and I'll pay you a little later? And, just sort of negotiated with people, and was able to kind of slowly get it going that way. But it was very much by my fingernails. It was rough going in the beginning. And then what ended up happening, it sort of grew from there, because after I had it was just clothing when I started. And then what ended up happening was I was like, there was at that time nowhere to buy like cool gifts or accessories and things like that that weren't expensive. Because a lot of a lot of the big chain stores that are here now, they weren't here then. And so I started trying to seek some of those things out, and they were doing really well. And so I moved the shop to Argyle Street to a bigger space, not as big as it is now, but way bigger than what I started with. And I changed the name to Biscuit General Store because...
What was it before?
It was just Biscuit Clothing, because all I had was clothes. And then I moved it down there because I was like, if we call it a general store, we can sell whatever the hell we want. You know what I mean? A general store can be like food. Like if we decide we want to sell food, we can sell food. And if we would, want to sell shoes, we can sell shoes.
Yeah.
And if we do get a lot of people coming in and asking us if we sell cigarettes. We do not, and we never will do that. But I just was like, that's an umbrella, of a name that just can be whatever we want it to be. And then we can keep adapting and unfolding how we want.
And why did you choose the name Biscuit?
People always ask that. Basically, because I'm from South Carolina. I was born and raised there. And when I was trying to think of a name for the store, and I was trying to open the store really quickly, and I was considering some names that were like an homage to where I grew up. And I kept thinking of all these different names. I was like, no, that's dumb, that's cheesy, that's stupid, that's this. And I was sitting there with a friend in a coffee shop, and she was kind of getting maybe a little irritated with me. And she said, why don't you just name it what you were going to name your dog? Because I had always said I wanted to have a dog and name it Biscuit. And now when she said it, I was like, I could see a logo in my mind. Like I started to see like red and white and the word biscuit, and I was like, actually, that's kind of fun to say, like Biscuit. It's like a short name, and it's like I could see it written easily, and I was like, actually, I think I like it. And so I didn't have a dog yet, so the store got the name. And
Do you have a dog now?
Not right now. I'm looking for a new one, but with the pandemic, you cannot get a dog anywhere.
Yeah. I remember once that started, those were like a lot of things. People just started adopting dogs and cats.
Yeah, you can't get one. Yeah. But hopefully I'll have another one soon. But yeah.
So what happened like in year 4 that made things start moving?
I don't really know. I think it was like we had enough, a little bit of time to get, I think I started feeling like some ground under my feet a little bit, maybe a little more confidence. And we had started to build enough, like I didn't have money to advertise and, do that, but maybe enough word of mouth started to get around where we started building enough of a customer base that was like, okay, like we're starting to get some momentum and traction, and felt like I could make the move to a bigger space. Actually, it wasn't any more expensive because at that time, Argyle Street was like all empty, papered over. Like there was not much down there. How
long ago was this?
That was like 20 years ago, maybe. They were like building Neptune Theater, I think. And I think the shoe shop was there. Like there were maybe 1 or 2 things there, but there were a lot of empty buildings, and so it wasn't like prime real estate or anything.
Hey man, you went in there early.
Yeah, we just were like, it's bigger, and we think we can make it cool.
Was it still just clothes then?
No, that's when I really made the change and changed the name and said we're going to call it Biscuit General Store, because then we can just do whatever we want, and we'll have that like umbrella name that'll just work for whatever direction we go in.
What were some of the first things you got in that were in clothes?
What were some of the first things? Well, I remember like at that time, we were like the first store that had the brand French Connection, which you might have heard about. And at that time, that was like, nobody here had that. And, oh God, in the early days, we had, back in like the raver days, there was this brand of pants from Toronto. I don't know if any of you ever heard of them, called Mod Robes. I've seen them start to come around. Like people are now doing that style again. And I'm like, oh my God. But there were these like really simple baggy pants, unisex, that had this like almost like seatbelt looking belt thing on them. And they made them in like a ton of colors. We sold bajillions of them. Like everybody was like crazy for these pants. And but those kind of things helped us, like I said, get on our feet so we could kind of be like, okay, we can do this.
Did you start with you, or did you hire people right away?
I had a couple of people right away that were friends, and I'm still friends with all of them today. But I worked like 6 days a week myself, definitely for the first 4 or 5 years. And well, since the pandemic, now I work 7 days a week. Not always in the store, but it's nonstop now. It's like,
And then I guess, how was it for you when Argyle started becoming what it is now?
In most ways, I would say it was a gift. I mean, it was great because we didn't have just our customers who came down there looking for us. Walking through our door, it started being like, oh, people from the suburbs who are coming down here to go out to dinner were finding us, or tourists were finding us. But then in more recent times, we went through the like disaster of the convention center being built.
I was like, which
was like pretty bone crushing. Every business on our street, on our block, either except us and Dirty Nelly's, closed, moved, or sold to new ownership because of the construction. So it was pretty brutal. It was pretty rough.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. But like, are there positives now that it's done?
Not yet. We're still waiting. There's nothing in there. It's like a ghost town in that convention center. But at least we're not dealing with construction like that anymore. It was just so much construction all at once because there were so many huge projects going on at the same time. It was like insane. And maybe someday the convention center will be something, but I don't know. I mean, pandemics don't really lend themselves to
I know.
centers.
But the former thing is now something new. The former conference.
The old convention center.
It's now like the cultural link. Now.
Yeah, that's.
It's not open yet.
Yeah,
but
that's supposed to be happening. That's further down Argyle, and I think I'm like all for having more arts and cultural, focus points downtown. That would be really, really great. I would love to see that actually come to be. If there's a time when we can like all be in the same space, or again, because I think performance, like for me, that's like, I love nothing better than going to live performance. It's like, feeds your soul, right? I mean, for me, it is like, I love going to like theater and live music and.
Talking about the pandemic, actually, I'll get to that. But like, with the store, right? Everything is, so there's like, when did Independent Mercantile happen, and why?
Well, that came out of my inspiration for that. A lot of it came out of I'd be out buying for Biscuit. And so, like, I would go to trade fairs and trade shows, or also when I travel, I love just looking in other shops and seeing what other people are doing. That's fun to me. It might not be to a lot of people, but to me, it's fun. And I would see all this great stuff, and I was like, why doesn't anyone have this in Halifax? Why isn't that around where we are? And it was things like a few of the things I remember really stuck with me were these glasses. When you go to Europe, they're on every bistro or bar table. There are these great French glasses called Duralex glasses. And they're not expensive or fancy. They're just like these really great glasses that you see everywhere there. And I'm like, you can't find them here. Why can't you find those here? Or these like beautiful blankets that I would see in lots of other places. And I never saw them here. And so that was part of it. I was like, why can't we get these things in Halifax? Why isn't anyone offering them? So that was part of it. And also I think I was like, I'd had Biscuit long enough where maybe I was starting to get like wanting another challenge, getting a little itchy, and wanting to see if like I could take on more and maybe try to grow. But also, honestly, in light of what was going on with the convention center and how tough things were for Biscuit, I was trying to find another revenue stream for myself because I was like, I gotta hedge my bets, and you know what I mean? I was like, can I maybe get a little salary from there and get some from here and like just like diversify my life a little bit so that I'm not so dependent on that one thing that was so living on the edge. I was like, I better, have options.
Wow.
So that was part of it. But then also a huge part of where it ended up is because I've always wanted to do something in my neighborhood. And I've lived on Falkland Street for like 23 years maybe. And I always wanted to do something that was in that area. And so when I was going to open this second business, I really looked around at lots of different options, and I'm really happy that we ended up where we did. Yeah.
And how long ago was it when you started Independent?
I think it's like almost 6 years now.
And so what's it? It's also like clothes or
no, it's not clothes at all.
Oh,
we don't
great.
have any clothes there. It's so it's home goods, like I was saying, like glasses and like barware, things for your kitchen, like gifts and things like for self-care, like candles and skincare and grooming products and shaving stuff and just plants, just like lots of things for your for gifts and for your home and for entertaining and things like that.
How do you decide what you put in each store?
Well, they have pretty different vibes, even though, I mean, I guess it's all me, so maybe there's some similarity. You know what I mean? Because maybe I have my own point of view or like what appeals to me, but like Biscuit is mostly clothes, and then we sell accessories and some gifts. But the gifts we have at Biscuit are much more like pop culture, like you'll see here. They're more like kind of funny and pop culture.
Yeah, this one stood out for me. How to be vegan and keep your friends.
Yeah, so like we have books there, but I try to have books that like you're not going to see everywhere else that are like kind of like fun and current, and so that's the kind of stuff we have at Biscuit, whereas Independent Mercantile is more like really lovely things for your home or for taking care of yourself. I would say it has maybe a little bit more of a, it's like ageless and has a little bit less, like Biscuit's more playful and Independent Mercantile is maybe more sophisticated or grown up in a certain way in terms of the gifty things that we have.
Yeah. And I mean, you run these two stores, even like, so even with the pandemic and before that, I'm sure you're super busy. How do you like make time for yourself? And okay, fine.
You're hilarious.
When you do get time for yourself, how do you spend that downtime?
Well, pre-pandemic, my favorite, like really the thing that I feel like gives me life and that I really love, I love to travel. I really, really love to travel.
But wouldn't that be also kind of like work for you too?
I do end up traveling for work, to do buying and go to shows, but also it's what I like doing for if I do have time. And also it's one of the only ways I can get myself to actually stop working is if I go away from, you know what I mean? Like if I'm in a strange city and I get myself away from the laptop, I might actually like go take a walk in a park and do something. And you know what I mean? Go wander around or go to museums. And like I said, like for me, I love going to museums. I love going to the theater. I love just wandering streets in a place I don't know and just people watching and looking at the buildings and like, I just adore doing that. That's a super happy place for me.
Okay. Yeah. And what are some of the places you've traveled to?
Lots. I mean, you know, around the U.S. and Canada a bit, but in terms of more exotic places, well, I've been to a fair number of places in Europe and also in Asia, but I want to do... like, there's a lot more I still want to do.
So, where was the last place you went to before the shutdown? That wasn't for work.
Oh, Because I was in LA like right before, and Toronto like 2 days before. But LA is mixed for me because I go there for work. I do a lot of buying there, and it's where we make our own in-house brand that we sell at Biscuit. We have some things that we collaborate with makers in LA to sew for us. So I do go there for work, but I also have some of my like closest friends there, and so it's a real mix of like work and enjoyment.
What's the in-house label called? Is it just Biscuit? Or?
It's called Bonanza by Biscuit.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And it's like just usually pretty affordable little things that we do collaborations with some of the like smaller fashion companies in LA that we've worked with. And when they get to know us a bit, sometimes we collaborate on stuff.
Do you ever work with local designers, or they have stuff in Biscuit?
We have in the past. That's been somewhat of a challenge, honestly. Like, it's kind of a bit of a heartbreaker historically.
No way.
Well, a lot of times we've tried to partner with local designers and put a lot of effort in, and then nothing ever ended up materializing. But we have at times done some. There's just not a lot of clothing that's made here. Like, there aren't many people actually making clothes here, so there's not a ton.
Okay, so I guess I'm a designer and I want to get my stuff in Biscuit. What do I do?
Well, the first thing I always tell people is just reach out to me, like either on social media or via email. And I need to see what they're making and see if it makes sense in our store for something that we think our customers would buy. And you need to kind of have your ducks in a row in terms of understanding that like we can't buy things at the price that people sell them. Like, that's also a big stumbling block. A lot of times they say like, well, I sell this shirt for $50, and so then they want to sell it to me for $50, and I'm like, well, yeah, but I have to mark it up because I have to pay staff and rent and insurance and utilities and all these things.
So is that why it makes sense when you do more stuff?
You mean
like
volume?
Yeah, volume. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't buy a lot of volume usually per style, but that's what the companies that we deal with are doing. They're mostly people who are doing a little bit more volume. Gotcha. We do work with a lot of smaller Canadian designers. There just haven't been a ton from here. But like we worked with, I don't know if you know Anna Gilkerson, who owns Anna and Zach, which used to be Make New. Yeah. When she was doing a line that she sold in other stores, like we had her things, and we have had like different t-shirt lines and things over the years from local designers. So I'm always like, bring it on. Like, I would love to do more of that.
So I guess, do you don't ever want to design stuff? You just like, if it's pretty, you want to put it in the store to sell?
I used to work as a designer, and then our in-house brand Bonanza, I do design a lot of that.
Okay. Yeah. That collaboration. Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha,
so I call it collaboration because I don't like to quite say I design it because I don't like make the patterns or do anything like that. But what happens is if it's an LA brand that maybe we've been buying things from and they already have production facilities and all of that, I'll go and say, hey, would you be open to doing something like this? And like maybe it'll be a dress I show them that I'm wearing, or like something like, oh, remember that dress we did last summer? Could we do something like this where we make it like 3 inches longer and then we change the sleeve like this? And like, and then I look through their fabrics and say like, what if we did it in this fabric and these buttons? And if they like my idea, it's sometimes a win-win because like for them, they're kind of getting someone who knows the business, who's giving them ideas for free. And then for me, it means sometimes I can get something made that I think will work for us, but the thing is you have to make like 300, 400, 500 of something, and I can't sell that. So what they do is they give me like 6 of them with my label in it, and then they take the other
400 and whatever
494 and put their label in it and sell it to stores in Japan and Chile and wherever, all over the place under their label. So that's why I say it's like a real collaboration, because they do the production and they make it possible for me to get things done that I don't have the volume to accomplish that. So it's sort of like a collaboration that way.
How did you pick up decide on the name Bonanza?
Pardon? Why did I call it Bonanza?
Yeah.
I chose that name because Bonanza means like like winning the lottery.
Yeah.
Like
it's a really happy name.
Like a treasure chest. Like, and it just feels like really positive. It means like, you know, hooray, it happened. And, you know, I wanted something that felt really positive and not pretentious and not like snobby. And I just thought that Bonanza had this feeling of like celebration.
Yeah, it sounds super happy.
Yeah.
Do you find that you have the same clients going to both stores, or is there distinct difference between people that are going to each store?
We do. We definitely do have a lot of overlap. I think definitely yes. And I find Mercantile's interesting because it's more neighborhoody because it's a neighborhood.
It's right there.
It's more of a residential area. So it has more of the neighborhoody vibe. And also I find a lot of much older people who maybe come to where we are in Gottingen because they're like going to the bakery or something like that. They come to Mercantile and buy the housewares, whereas they might not be our clothing customer for Biscuit. So I find we get more of the neighborhood vibe there, and we get like a lot of these sort of much older senior clients there that aren't really our downtown clothing people. Yeah.
Okay. So you are in LA, then you get to Toronto, and then it's like, oh wait, people are really dying. We are shutting everything down. What is your reaction as a business owner?
We closed real fast. Basically, we closed before they told anyone to close because I came back from Toronto, and I think it was on like the 11th or something of March. And I went to work, and I just felt so uncomfortable. One of the main things on my mind was asking my staff to come to work on the bus. You know, because I don't make them take the bus, but I know that a lot of them do, and just thinking like, what are we doing here? Like, is this really important right now? And just nothing. Ooh, sorry.
Okay.
Nothing to me would ever be as important as like risking people's health and safety. And so I just was like not feeling comfortable, even though people were coming in and wanting to buy things. I felt really weird being like, yeah, you should buy this dress right now because that's really important at this moment in time. I just felt super uncomfortable. And actually what it reminded me of is it reminded me of 9/11. When I was in Toronto when 9/11 happened, and I remember I called the shop and I just said, close. It really reminded me of that same feeling, which was just fucking close. Like, this doesn't feel right now. This is not important right now. And so I just told both of the stores, I just was like, that's it, we're closing. At that time we didn't know that everything was going to close even, but I just was like, until we know more, like, I just can't do this. So, yeah.
But then it's like week 1, then week 5.
Dude, when we closed, I was like talking to my staff and thinking like, oh, so it'll be like a couple weeks and like, we'll all get to like take a little breather. And I was sort of thinking like I didn't think it through. Like, I didn't know enough to think it through and realize like, oh, this is going to be like a while. And I remember Anna and Zach Make New. Anna and I were talking and we were like, let's get some of the women-owned like small business owners together on Zoom and just like see what's up with everybody. This was like early on, and we all got on Zoom and we were all kind of like shell-shocked. And we were thinking like, yeah, it's going to be like, 3 or 4 weeks. And like, God, it's going to be really hard to survive missing 3 or 4 weeks of sales, but we'll figure it out. And we had no idea. No idea.
And then it sinks in, then what?
Well, I have to say, like, I felt really grateful to be in Canada.
I shouldn't be laughing that hard, but
like, I'm from South Carolina.
Yeah,
it's like bad.
Yeah,
And
it's strange when people make something that's keeping them alive political.
Oh my God. Even just today I was looking at stuff. I was like, are you kidding me? But like, yeah, I feel so grateful. It's not perfect. And, you know, there are things that have been issues here for sure. But I just felt like the fact that they rolled out support for people so quickly, so people didn't have to have that like panic and fear. When like I would talk to my friends in the States who were like, right, like, you know, within 2 weeks we're going, shit, I can't pay my rent. And we weren't having that moment because, you know, I mean, I know the next few years are still going to be super bumpy and there's going to be a depression. I don't know what's going to happen or if my businesses will survive. But the fact that they tried to roll out help quickly so people didn't have to have that immediate panic while we're all trying to figure shit out, I felt so grateful to be here, honestly. I feel really like it's better. You know?
Yeah, I know. And funny enough, just before the shutdown, I was in Florida myself, right? And then I don't know, like I was there for a conference, and like I get back, and I'm like, oh wait, everything is shutting down. And I was like, okay, fine, I can work from home, but then you realize that life is not going to be the same for a very, very long time.
Yeah, that took a while for me to kind of get that. The like, oh, I can't, you know, we're not going to see people. It's going to be more than a few weeks. And, you know, that it's very surreal. I feel like we're really living in this super surreal science fiction,
I know,
strange thing that years from now, that, you know, maybe we'll have some perspective on it. But right now it's just like,
But like, I mean, I guess as human beings, we adapt, we're resilient, and we try to make it work somehow. Yeah. So we're opening up, you know, reasonably. What is that like for your businesses?
Well, it's been okay. I mean, I feel like the only way I wanted to do that is if I could do it and feel good about it, because if it felt sketchy, it just didn't, you know, wouldn't be worth it. But we feel like I just worked really closely with my staff, and we really talked about what can we do so that everybody feels safe. And we've talked a lot about, at Biscuit especially, we've talked a lot about the idea of trust, and that how we as a team all really need to have trust for each other. And because we really need to trust that each of us are doing the things, because we're going to be in close proximity with each other, like that each of us are following protocols to keep each other safe. And so like what we're doing is we've been kind of overzealous with safety protocols. Like we're quarantining all the clothes that people try on, and like that's not anything that's required, but we just felt like that's how we can feel okay about what we're doing and feel that we're taking care of people and not risking things to try to, you know, make money and pay our rent and do the things we got to do. And for the most part, I would say people coming in have been really respectful and appreciative. And I think people are really turning up to try to support local business, which we really appreciate. But it's still super uncertain. I don't know how this is all going to play out. It depends how long it takes. Because we're definitely, you know, like in the summer, at my store downtown on Argyle Street, like I'd say probably 30% of my business was from tourists, and they're not here. So like I don't know how to predict the iterations down the road, but right now we're just trying to like do everything we can to take care of our staff and keep people coming in feeling respected and safe. And like we're all wearing masks in the store all the time. All our staff are wearing them. We make everyone use hand sanitizer. It's not optional. We've had a few people refuse, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, but it's like I said, it's the only way we can feel good about like, you're going to be walking around the store touching stuff. If you use that on the way in, I feel okay about that. And yeah, for the most part, people have been really sweet and supportive.
One thing, you know, that the pandemic has kind of taught me is that Yeah. So my company is called Ubuntu, and Ubuntu is this whole South African. It's a sentence, but like the essence of that sentence is that we are stronger together. You know, it's a big thing, and that's what this pandemic does. Like, all it takes is one person being stupid and not caring about the other person. And you kind of have to get out of yourself and like, what I'm doing affects everybody else.
God, yeah. It's like that word community means so much more now, you know, because it's not just talking about like this maybe picture we had in our mind of what community means, but it actually means like, you know, communal, and that we're all impacting each other in such a real way. And yeah, that word trust, I keep coming back to. Like, I was talking to my mama who still lives in North Carolina, and she said to me, like, we were talking about the whole mask controversy in the U.S. and she compared it to like wearing a condom, which I had never thought of, but I was like, it's so true, because it's not just like people saying like, you know, you can't make me wear a mask. It's like, yeah, but you're doing it for everybody else. Like, that's why you do those things, right? That's that idea of community, or like some kind of social contract or social, that we're all responsible for each other. Like, think of all the things we do to be responsible for each other, right? Like, we do all the time. Like, you could say like, I don't feel like using my turn signal when I drive, and you can't make me. But like, it's something you do for everybody's sake. And I trust that you'll do it, and you'll trust that, you know what I mean? It just feels like we have to be thinking that way more than ever. Not just with like wearing a mask, but just like
everything. Yeah,
like trying to support our neighbors and look out and make sure people are okay, and checking in with people, and you know, all, and supporting local companies, whatever it is. I just think we have to do that right now.
I mean, not like to get on a soapbox with a microphone or something, but like, I think we are really doing well in Nova Scotia, at least.
I do too.
Yeah, and it's always nice when we're like, oh, day 3, we know this thing, and like the new cases we had with people coming from outside. So it's like in here we kind of are doing the best we can, but like I'm just kind of stuck with the depression. Let's talk about your social media. It's so happy. It's so happy. It is. Like I mean, especially for Biscuit, right? It's like this happy zone.
Thanks.
Yeah. So like, do you have a team behind that, or how do you? How does that? Especially your Instagram is more what I'm talking about.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, these days actually the team is myself and my niece.
Oh.
And that's been really great. Like, she jumped in. We quarantined together during the shutdown, and she offered to kind of jump in and be like a thought partner and help me with social media during this time. And also because since we were quarantining together, it made a lot of sense because we were doing photo shoots together, and that wouldn't have been as comfortable with someone who wasn't in our household. But I mean, yeah, so that's been great. But generally, we even have it on our wall that that we say that like Biscuit is your happy place, and that that's important to me, and like why I want to do it. I mean, it is my work and my livelihood, but it's also I don't mind showing up at work because I think it is, and we try to make it be a positive and happy place. That's like, it's super important to us that it's really, you know, inclusive and positive and not snobby and not judgmental, and yeah, I want it to be that kind of space.
Yeah, it comes through on the Instagram. Okay, I don't want this to end, but yeah, we're out of time, so I'm gonna end it with this question now. You know, I mean, with the pandemic and everything, but even with all that, you have these years and years of experience, right? Someone out there watching, listening says, okay, I have this great idea, or I want to turn into a business. Like, what from your experience would you share with this person?
Well, I've sometimes been like asked to speak to like groups of entrepreneurs and things, and so maybe I'll think of a few things I've said to them. Or like I love mentoring new businesses, and that's something I do with a few people right now. One thing I tell people is go make mistakes on somebody else's payroll. Because I feel like one of the most valuable things I had before I started my shop was that I worked for all these other businesses, and I basically went around and was like, don't do that, that's fucked up, don't do that. I don't know if I can say that.
Yes,
Sorry,
you can.
No,
you can.
It really taught me so much of like traps and pitfalls and things that I could see by working in other businesses that was like, ooh, got to watch out for that. That doesn't work. So that's one thing I encourage people is like, don't just run out of the gates without kind of going out and learn some lessons on somebody else's payroll, like while you're working for them, instead of taking your shot, and blowing it. Another thing I would say is like, if you are in the midst of doing it, and I know that these times are especially challenging, and I mean, like I said, I feel like I'm starting over. It's a whole new business. Like I just launched e-commerce for Biscuit the day before yesterday. Like it's a whole new, which I've needed to do for years, granted, but it's just, we all have to do business in new and different ways now. And I just feel like, don't give up, because everyone who looked at my business the first few years that I was open would have said, this is failing. The numbers did not look cute and it didn't make sense on paper. But if you really, really love it and you care about it, like keep fighting, like keep working it. And then the other thing I would say is get advice. Because I still do. If I don't know how to do something, or if I feel like there's something that's out of my area of expertise, or sometimes just like I want to hear what other people are doing, I talk to my peers, I talk to other entrepreneurs, but also like I have business advisors and mentors myself that I go to and say like, I don't know how to do this. What do you do when this happens? And so I think get advice too.
Wow. Thank you so much, Wendy.
Thank you, Israel. I feel weird, like, had this whole conversation and didn't even talk about you. It's so, like, I'm not used to doing that.
No.
So now we have to, like, turn it around.
The show today is about you, and I'm going to make time to talk about me and stuff.
Okay.
Deal?
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much.
I like it. Thank you.
This is the Blackout Podcast. Thanks for listening.